Hello, lovelies. You're listening to episode 67 of the Broken Enchantments podcast, written and read by Elizabeth Wheatley. That's me. I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Be sure to check out my Patreon for next week's episode, now available. You can check out the links below. Happy listening. Janir took deep breaths. Argetallams. Argetallams. They would take her again and probably kill her after what she had done. But it wasn't the thought of death that frightened her most, though that was terrifying enough. It was the thought of what they would do to her friends and to her before death. A familiar face separated from the crowd of warriors. Fear settled even deeper as Janir recognized the black leather armor, cobalt hair with a slight curl, a scar scraped over one eye. Janir choked. Cerilius. She had betrayed him, all of them. With that thought came an unwanted weight of guilt. Carlisle must have recognized the man or the name because he grabbed Janir's hand as if that could protect her. "Stay calm," Carlisle squeaked. "Just stay calm." The appearance of Cerilius had rattled him more than the other tri-count of warriors combined. Cerilius was an honor guard, one of those tasked with direct service to the Argetallum royalty. If he was here... "Milady, you are to come with me." The Morton rested one hand easily on his sheathed carcatan. "Come and take her." Saoven growled. The elf stepped in between the two of them. Cerilius rolled his eyes. "Milady, if every last one of your companions must be cut down to obtain you, we have orders to do just that." Janir surveyed the dozens of Argetallams surrounding them. She highly doubted that a single one would give a second thought to slaughtering her companions on the spot. "You can have her when my blood waters the soil," Armandius growled, but he still did not draw his sword. "The choice is not yours to make, Brevian." Cerilius never once looked away from Janir. Janir swallowed. If I go with you, can you give me your word that they will not be harmed?" "No, Janir." "Quiet, Saoven," Janir hissed. Armandius tried to protest, but Velasquez silenced him. "This may be our only chance at survival," the elf growled. "We have orders to imprison them, if possible," Cerilius answered. "Beyond that, I cannot say." This man had never lied to her, one of the few Argetallams who could say as much. That Janir knew. "All right." She tried to step out from behind Saoven, but Armandius grabbed her arm and pulled her back. "Janir, I won't let you." "It's the only way." She wrenched her arm out of his grasp. "They'll kill you all if I don't." She jerked back and tried to duck around Saoven, but he seized her wrist. "Janir, what if he won't hurt me?" "How do you know?" "He never has." Janir twisted out of Saoven's grip before he could stop her. She had planned to walk to Cerilius, but he grabbed her before she could. He dragged her behind the line of Mortons, heedless to the protests of Saoven, Armandius, and Carlisle. "Your carcatan?" Cerilius barked. Janir swallowed and obeyed, unbuckling her carcatan belt and handing it over. Cerilius snatched the belt and adjusted his grip on her arm. "Mortana Saoven, you are in command. Take the prisoners to the dungeons." He barked to a nearby lieutenant, a slim woman with a strong jaw and regimented dreadlocks. "See them disarmed and contained." The warrior bowed her acknowledgement and took a step closer to the elves and the two Brevians. Saoven gave an order, someone mumbled in response, and Janir twisted around to see, but Cerilius dragged her up the staircase. Jorman Nufar had disappeared, probably scurried off as soon as the Argetallams showed. The last glimpse she caught of her friends was them handing over their weapons as she and Ceruleus reached the top of the steps. The ground leveled out into another courtyard. It was paved with slabs of stone, but still, flowers managed to work up between the cracks. A fountain bubbled in the corner, home to a collection of flowering lily pads. Ceruleus never offered an explanation as to where they were going, and she didn't ask. Without stopping, he led her through a maze of passages and corridors into the halls of Tarkov. Unlike the reception areas of the temple, the inside was kept in mint condition. There was not a loose thread in the curtain or a leaf on the floor. They passed servants with downcast eyes, acolytes in ceremonial robes who quickly bowed when they caught sight of Ceruleus. No one addressed them, and certainly no one challenged him. Janir only caught sight of another Argetallam once, and that was the fleeing figure of an honor guard disappearing down a hall. Janir tried to remember the route they took, but Ceruleus seemed to read her mind and take the most complicated, winding corridors he could find. They doubled back on the same mosaic of a hunt scene at least 3 times before Ceruleus finally saw fit to haul her into an opulent apartment befitting royalty. To one side was a 4-poster bed on a raised dais, draped in a veil to keep out insects. Behind the bed was a door blocked by a thick curtain. The outward-facing wall opened to the balcony that ran the length of the room, the ceiling supported by pillars. Below the balcony's edge, the river thundered not too far down. Brass stands held dried plants at various intervals around the room. Janir guessed that the incense was some sort of insect repellent. Ceruleus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice had lost just a little of its usual force. "I'm going to search you now." Janir squeezed her eyes tighter. There wasn't anything she could do to stop him. "I'm sorry." The words were so quiet, Janir wasn't sure if she had imagined them or not. He skimmed over her body quickly, perfunctorily. Janir tried not to flinch, but she did more than once. When he was satisfied that she wasn't concealing any form of weaponry on her, he glanced to the door. "You can come in now." The door opened, and another familiar face showed. Canacade. Canacade was different than he had been before. Back in Valmaken, he had been the bright and cheerful one, but now when she caught his eye, there was nothing but cold recognition. Behind the second Morton followed a pair of Tathansian handmaidens. They were dressed mostly the same as the houseboys Janir had seen, save their sleek hair that hung nearly to their waists. Ceruleus turned Janir around to face him. "These girls are under orders to bathe you and make you presentable. Canacade and I should be outside the door. If you give them any trouble, we shall dismiss them and do whatever work remains ourselves. Do you understand me?" Janir gulped and nodded mutely. "Good." Without sparing her another glance, Ceruleus snatched up her carcatan and marched out. The door clanged after him and Canacade, leaving Janir alone with the 2 handmaidens. Janir stared forlornly after the Mortons. What was going to happen to Saoven, Carlisle, and the others? Was Gwenna here? There was so much magic in this palace, and Janir didn't remember how to identify a clairvoyance power. A few low words passed between the 2 handmaidens. The tallest nodded and turned a demure gaze to Janir. The taller of the pair bowed to Janir, her hands clasped before her. "I am Shimri, and this is Kavela. We shall be serving you while you are here." Janir grimaced by way of acknowledgement. "Do what you must." The handmaidens took her into the bathing room and helped her remove her battered riding habit. Janir didn't remember the last time she had been unclothed in front of other people. It had probably been when she was a child. Dirt had worked its way under the fabric and left swirling patterns on her skin. A spattering of scratches, cuts, and bruises imprinted her flesh, the marks of rough travel. When Janir slid into the warm water of the bathing pool, she realized just how sore she had been. Shimri untangled Janir's hair with a tortoiseshell comb, and Kavela worked to cleanse the cuts on her hands and feet. They scrubbed almost every inch of her, and Janir tried not to react. She would not cause problems when others could be punished in her place. When Janir left the bath, she was more than grateful for the thick dressing robe they gave her. They had her return to the main apartment and sit in a chair before a mirror. Shimri finished combing out the tangles and plaited her hair in a coil that wrapped around her head. At least this meant her father probably didn't intend to kill her. Janir shivered. Her father was here. She knew it, the same way she knew there was a sky above the roof or earth beneath the floor. His power permeated the temple. She just didn't know what he wanted with her. Kavela selected Janir's clothes, choosing a deep purple tunic and a snow-white brocade delicate as a spider's web. She laid them neatly on a rack so that they wouldn't become wrinkled, and then presented Janir with a loose-fitting gown. "You will wear that this evening at dinner, my lady," Kavela informed her. Janir made no reply. So her father expected her to attend him at dinner? So be it. She slipped into the loose gown, more than a little grateful for its soft weave. And moments later, a serving boy brought in a tray laden with fruits, meats, and seasoned rice. "I thought you would be hungry, my lady," Kavela said. "Thank you," Janir emptily replied. She was hungry. Indeed, her insides were knotting themselves into tangles, and all she'd eaten these past few days was reheated bread, but she couldn't seem to find the will to want to eat. Outside, Cerilius and Canicade stood watch by the door. She tried demanding what had happened to her companions. Cerilius shoved her back inside her room. When she asked when she would be taken to see her father, they told her she was to wait for the Lord Argetallams' timing, and then they slammed the door in her face. In the end, she nibbled a little at the contents of the tray before lying down to rest. She was exhausted, and the comforting embrace of the feather mattress was more than a welcome respite. The handmaidens left, telling her to pull the rope by her bed if she needed anything. Janir heard the two girls skitter away, past the guards in the hall. She was a prisoner as surely as if she were in the dungeon. You have been listening to Broken Enchantments, written and read by Elizabeth Wheatley. Don't forget to check out my Patreon for early access to episodes, bonus content, and lots of patrons-only freebies. You can learn more at elizabethwheatley.com. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube. I'll see you next time.